Hey everyone, a nerd named Mark here. It's time to go over episode 20 of Kamen Rider Geats. Man, I had all these notes. I literally have my notes in front of me. Because a lot of people, you know, I'm in Discords and said, like, hey, we could always see like something glaring in your glasses. Yes, it is very tough to not have reflections in my glasses. It sucks. I hate it, but I can't see anything. But I take notes. I don't script my reviews. I just have bullet points and I kind of like free flow. I'm looking at this page of notes right now that I took for episode 20. And like I don't know. Like the show just feels different, and I've been saying that for the last 3 or 4 episodes now. Uh, and I had a lot of issues with this episode, not from like an overall quality standpoint. Obviously, the quality's there, just from how quickly we got like this disaster being revealed, and you know, just more nuggets of things, and it's one of those where it's like I don't want my you to hold my hand and tell me the story and just like throw stuff obviously in my face. I do want to ask these questions, but at some point we got to get some answers. And revealing the Desestar in this episode, I feel like I would have waited until it was like the final three, or down to like just drag it out a little bit more. Yes, we know who it is, but they don't. But it's like I want to keep guessing who could it be. Um, I am gonna say the beginning of the episode, this new GM is, like I said before, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be annoyed by him or entertained. Very charismatic. I have decided I am annoyed by him. I find him annoying. I don't like when he's on the screen anymore, and it hasn't even been that long. Very annoying character. And this is a kind of, there's the comedy elements of it work when they work, and sometimes they don't. Like in the beginning of the episode, Kayla gets an emergency call from his sister. He's all concerned, and that's that. We find out her emergency is she can't cut open a pineapple. And we find out this was a mysterious gift, but the pineapple expires by sunset. And right out the bat, like that, how do you not find that suspicious? Fruit doesn't expire the same day. That's this, like this must be like the freshest fruit in the world if by sunset it's expired. Like that's very specific. Um, we then get our uh Jamato showing up in delivery trucks, and we see some fighting, which is now going to explain the fruit because they're bombs. Because as Nago and Tycoon are fighting them, they drop their boxes. We see the fruit rolling out, and they end up growing very large, very comically large, and then exploding. And I was like, okay, so this is a game involving fruit bombs. And then what other thing is like, I love this evolution we're getting here and there of the Jamato, because the Jamato have now written basically a threatening letter to the DGP, and that they uh said, we're planting time bombs in your world, defuse them by sunset or the lives of the hostages will be forfeit forever. So it's like, I'm like, oh, well, this explains Kayla's sister, but none of them, he doesn't figure it. He doesn't put two and two together yet, because he didn't divulge the phone call to anyone else. We then see Archimetal. He's talking with the Jamato at the desk. He says, you've even learned how to send threats now. And he proclaims how clever they've become. So the Jamato having like little class, learning to write. They're able to emulate and imitate humans now. Like the evolution of the Jamato has been very intriguing. But at the same time, the more this episode goes on, the more I think everything that was built up in the first half of the show has just been completely a lie. It's like them not divulging it's a reality show is one thing, but like, was there really an invasion? So now with the new game started, I'm just like, okay, so most of the stuff I've noticed since this new arc has begun with episode 16 is the games themselves are playing like second fiddle to everything else going on in the show. And what I mean by that is the games almost feel like they don't matter anymore when you think about it, because other than them having to win so the game area doesn't get, destroyed, there's no stakes. Winning the game doesn't get you points. Losing the game doesn't get you eliminated. It's the popularity vote or you being voted off as the traitor. So the games to me feel less important now. And that's, it kind of bothers me in that sense. So, I mean, so we still get some cool action sequences. You know, Geats is the first one to defeat a Jamato, so he clears a secret mission, and he gets his mission box that has the Magnum driver in it, and the Magnum buckle, not the driver. The driver's the belt, and you know we see one of the coolest scenes, I think, because it reminded me of Spider-Man with Green Goblin. Is you have Geats and Tycoon talking, and we see an apple bomb roll by them, and then it explodes. I started being like, oh man, all we needed was that Norman Osborn laugh in there. It would have been perfect. But like I said in the beginning of my review, one of the issues I had is them revealing the disaster so early on, because at the end of the episode we get it confirmed. But the way the edits are done, Lopo's instantly shown in the next scene looking at some, like walking and looking. So they're really not making it subtle that she's the traitor, that she's the one who's doing all this. And still by this point, I'm still just like, how is Kate not putting two and two together that it's his sister has a fruit bomb delivered to her? And it wasn't until everyone was standing around after they defeated Javato trying to figure out how to find the bombs that they planted. And then he finally clicks in his head. They run over, and there was bound by some red and blue vine wires to the ground next to the pineapple. And they're all like, oh my God, what is this? But she's like, you're tied up, you're about it. Like your first reaction is, oh my God, what is Ace and Neon doing here? And I'm just like, it's very on brand for her. I'm really intrigued by these pocket dimensions, because at one point we see Neon's mother and father watching on, and her mom is like losing it. This is a dangerous game. How can you put her in this this situation? Like, we need to get her out of this. And even her father proclaims that if she contributes toward world peace, she'll get her wish fulfilled, and that is good for her independence. And you know, even the mom's like, no. She tries to rebuttal, and he just cuts her off and says she has quite the supporter backing her after all. So I don't know who her supporter is, because he's a sponsor of the DGP, and I don't know if sponsors can also be supporters. So does that mean we haven't seen Neon's supporter yet? Because they haven't really defined all these, outside of supporters, they haven't really defined what all these other positions. We know what the game master is, we know what the producer is, but sponsor versus supporter, that's something I'm still hoping we get more information on, because we haven't really got a lot of information from what her dad does. This still makes me think of Punk Jack and his grandfather and all that stuff going, because that's kind of just been a lost thought now. But obviously Nan's mom calls her. She's arguing. She's like, I've got a fiance for you. I got all this other stuff. Like, you don't need to do all this stuff. Try to basically sweeten the pot, but it's all the things Nan doesn't want. My main thing for bringing this up is, once again, Lopo's Saya is behind her after the phone call, asks if she's all right. And I'm like, you're making her look overly suspicious, and all this seems so rushed, because she didn't seem overly suspicious in the last couple episodes. Like, if you go back and watch, yes, it kind of seems like it could be to an extent, but not really, because they built up freaking Daichi as the disaster, made him look suspicious. But I brought up the Jamato because Archimetal is planting Buffa's ID core into a tree, and then a mysterious girl appears and asks for it, and he calls her a sponsor, and that it's rare to see her. And then Azuma wakes up, and she's standing there. She introduces herself. Her name is Baroba, and she's a sponsor backing the Jamato. And my thing is, if the Jamato have backers, like supporters, this doesn't make any sense, because this whole entire time up until now, we have been told the Jamato are trying to destroy the world and everyone in it, and take over. So why would someone go in and want to sponsor and support this? Because it doesn't make it. So that's why I'm like, there's something about the Jamato that isn't really a part of anything that's going on. There's stuff obviously we're not being told, and as of right now, I'm like, the way it's being presented, it's like just kind of making everything else up to now and all the explanations, if it's not done right in storytelling, it's gonna be a plot hole, or it's just gonna be it's not gonna be impactful, so to speak. And even Azuma, she says she wants Azuma to beat the Kamen Riders, and they should team up. He even says she's an admin of the DGP. And, she even says, don't lump me up with those hacks. And I'm like, okay, obviously something happened. And there's some sort of division within the supporters, which we see a little bit of later on with Gene. And one of the things that was really annoying is they tried to make Lopo sympathetic from a standpoint of, her talking about her family with Nan, how her dad was ill. They had a restaurant, it had to get shut down. That's why she wants her wish, because she wants to stay athletic and healthy to maintain her abilities to keep those sponsorships so she can provide for her family. And I was like, that's cool. Like, make her sympathetic. This could work out. But by the end of the episode, when you find out she's the traitor, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, okay, this is her manipulation tactic to not get the votes against her. But it just, I don't know, it just seemed off. It just seemed really rushed and just not a lot of thought put into it, because we get our mid round voting and everyone has one vote except for K. K has no votes. Only 3 people have voted so far. I'm like, that's fine. I was like, let's get back to the game. Let's defuse the bombs. And that's what happens. So Ace and K will realize we need to find a Jamato carrying a pineapple bomb. So that's what they do. They set out to find it. We get a really cool scene, which I thought was actually, like I said, cool. Where they find some Jamato in a box truck and they start attacking them, and then they start driving off. They're chasing them as the guy's throwing banana bombs, and the explosions are going around. The camera cuts to the side. I thought that was really cool. And then Keiwa destroys the truck, and through the flames we see Azuma walking forward, and I'm like, yes, give me Azuma versus Ace. Just give me that fight. I've been wanting that fight to be proper for so long now. We got hints of it here and there, but now I'm like, are they going to throw down fully? And Azuma henshins with, it's funny that Azuma henshining has been some of the best scenes in the last couple episodes. And they start fighting as Ace tells Keiwa to go. And like, I'm just like, I know this isn't their final showdown, because you could see when he henshins, it's still painful. It's not working. Like, so there's still something going on. So for now, this is going to hold me over until we get a real fight. Another cool thing is, I didn't realize we haven't seen this before. We get Keiwa as Tycoon with the zombie form, because he finds the Jamato with the pineapple. It flees to a warehouse and shuts the door. He apparently can't get in, even though there's like a door right to the right of him. So he takes the zombie buckle from Lopo, cuts to the door, and we get one of the best looking zombie finishes, other than the tombstone kick that Ace did to Japan, where the hands are coming through the ground, holding the body up, and then he just knocks him right in the face. I thought that was a really cool finish. And when it's destroyed, you see some red wires left behind, so we know, okay, that's the wire you got to cut. And this whole entire time, one of my favorite things is Buff and Ace are just fighting, and the sequences are really good. I'm really enjoying this fight because it's very toned down from what it could be, because we know we're not getting the best fight between the two yet. And looking on is Gene, and like I said, we get some supporter and like little back and forth, because Baraba shows up, and Gene keeps the heat on him. He just pulls a gun out and just point at her, and I'm like, oh, well then. And he tells her to get lost, as this is for Rider supporters, not Jamato supporters. And he said supporters, not a supporter. So is there more than one Jamato supporter? Because I find that very intriguing, especially when she laughs and she says she's found a Rider to support. As they're turning to face each other, we see on the screen freaking Geats and Buffa facing each other. And I was like, that was a visually appealing scene. That really set the tone. And also I'm like, okay, he's considered a rider, because I know they're Jamato riders, but like, if she doesn't consider him a Jamato, like, I'm just like, I need to know what's like there. Like I said, there's so much stuff not being said, and I don't want my hand held, but I do think the pacing of the storytelling right now and some of the developments is just a little bit tiring to wait for. Keiwa finally shows up to cut the wire, and he does that with 1 second left. And one of the coolest things was, which I thought was entertaining, like I said, the humor sometimes works and it doesn't. This does. They're nervously laughing. Keiwa and Sarah are joking with each other, and he says, "Why would you even open a suspicious package? And that you don't even like pineapples." And I'm like, that is true. Uh, I wish instead of all these cuts to different things happening outside, we would have got more Ace and Buffa fighting, because eventually Ace stops himself from hitting the finisher, and Buffa obviously can't maintain this form still as he dehensions and collapse. Ace is like, all right. Uzuma says, "It's only a matter of time before I crush you," and he walks away. And I'm just like, this is great. Like, I'm really digging that they're still keeping that those two are like destined to fight each other, and I like that. Then we get this whole episode, we get Narum at the end, and he's finding out a Jamato sponsor is backing Buffa, and he's even asked how, if they should let the game master deal with it, and he says no, it's not that easy because it involves a sponsor, and that is where he comes in. So we're getting Narum to like finally enter the fray and do something about this, because I was curious with the whole Buffa situation more, what is he, and why is Narum so like hyper focused on that, especially now that he has a sponsor. And like I said, we see the reveal. Say Kamen Rider Lopo is the traitor. She's holding the disaster card with a mission, so they get missions every game, which is pretty cool. And hers was hit other riders with a Jamato bomb, so they get disaster missions each game to disrupt. And I think that's really interesting. I just hate how this was all revealed. It would have been cooler if, say, someone found one of the mission cards. It was like, hey, so someone did this, who was missing? Like, make it more of like make it more of them trying to figure it out, because right now they're not really doing anything to try to figure out who it is. But at the end of the episode, we got a new DGP rule, and it says the disaster must complete their secret objective without fail. So also, what does that mean if you don't complete it? What happens? That's why I'm just like, man, this show has a lot of pacing issues right now. I'm still really enjoying Geats, don't get me wrong, but I think they could easily write some things in there, maybe cut some of the other fluff out. Like right now, I feel like the disaster really isn't that important. No one's trying to figure out who it is, And now we have a Jamato sponsor, and I'm like, I need to know more about what's going on with this. So there's a lot going on. I have no theories. I have no anything right now. I'm just watching it. So that's really it. Let me know what you thought. What do you think is going on with Buffa? Like, what do you think about the disaster reveal? Like I said, I think it was lackluster. I felt rushed and kind of a cop out to make a new character that person. I think it would have been more intriguing if it was Ace, or if it was even Neon. But I was like, that's just, I don't know. And also, we didn't get a popularity vote pop up this time around, so I don't know what's going on with that. But I thank you guys for watching. That's it for my review of episode 20 of Kamen Rider Geats. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Like I said, comment below and like the video. I got some other stuff I'm going to work on. I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.